You hear the word Samsung, and I bet I know exactly what pops into your head. You probably picture a sleek Android smartphone, maybe a stunning flat-screen TV, or even one of those really high-tech refrigerators sitting in a modern kitchen. We've basically been conditioned to put them in the exact same box as Apple, Google, or Sony. But viewing Samsung as just a consumer electronics brand, well, that is a fundamental misunderstanding of what this entity actually is. Welcome to this explainer. Today we're going to put on a serious documentary-style lens and uncover the massive hydra-like commercial empire that's been built entirely beneath the retail surface. We're going to look right past the gadgets to reveal a scale of operation that genuinely shapes our modern world. We're diving into the unseen machinery of a monolith that operates on a level few corporations in human history have ever achieved.
Okay, let this staggering statistic really sink in for a second. Samsung isn't just a regular company. It's what's known as a chaebol, a massive, family-controlled corporate conglomerate deeply rooted in South Korea. Its economic footprint is so incredibly vast that this single entity accounts for roughly 20%, literally 1/5, of South Korea's entire gross domestic product. To put that into perspective, just imagine if a single family-owned business in the United States was responsible for like $5 trillion of economic output every single year. An entire advanced industrialized nation relies on this one corporate giant for 1/5 of its economy. To really wrap our heads around that level of dominance, we have to transition our thinking way beyond consumer tech and look at the actual physical foundations of the modern economy.
So here's the massive journey we're going to take in this explainer today. First, we'll look at building the world's tallest icons. Then we'll map out the silicon supply chain, explore their cradle-to-grave domestic ecosystem, uncover a completely hidden military legacy, and finally wrap up with their philosophy of total vertical integration. Let's dive right in.
Section 1. Building the tallest icons. We're talking Samsung CNT and heavy industries.
828 meters. Honestly, just think about the sheer vertical impossibility of a number like that. When you think of the world's most intense, physics-defying architectural marvels, Samsung probably isn't the first name that comes to mind, right? But it absolutely should be. Through their division, Samsung CNT, the conglomerate functions as a premier global contractor. The Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world, piercing the sky over Dubai, was constructed with Samsung CNT as the primary contractor. Building a structure over a half-mile high in a harsh desert environment, that requires solving unprecedented engineering challenges. We're talking pumping high-density concrete vertically under immense atmospheric pressure and engineering structural defenses against extreme wind shears. They don't just make the phone in your pocket, they literally build the tallest skylines on Earth.
And their reach extends way beyond Dubai. They have a dominant, almost dossier-like record of executing global megaprojects. Over in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, Samsung was brought on to build Tower 2 of the legendary Petronas Twin Towers, along with the incredibly complex sky bridge connecting the two massive structures high up in the air. In Taiwan, they largely built Taipei 101, which used to be the world's tallest building. That specific project required immense engineering prowess to survive brutal typhoons and frequent earthquakes, utilizing massive 660-ton tuned mass dampers just to keep the skyscraper from tearing itself apart in heavy winds. They consistently execute these heavy infrastructure projects that seem structurally impossible.
All right, let's zoom out even further. From vertical skyscrapers to the massive scale of the open ocean, Samsung Heavy Industries operates one of the largest and most advanced shipyards on the planet, located in Jeoje, South Korea. We are talking about dry dock facilities that span millions of square meters. They aren't just assembling small boats out there, they are manufacturing massive liquefied natural gas carriers, giant floating oil production platforms, and incredibly rugged Arctic shuttle tankers. To really grasp this scale, picture an ultra-large container ship. These vessels are over a quarter-mile long, capable of hauling tens of thousands of shipping containers across brutal, unforgiving ocean conditions. This division literally forges the heavy steel backbone of global maritime trade. The jump in scale from a microscopic silicon ship to a 200,000-ton floating oil platform is simply mind-blowing.
Moving on to Section 2. The silicon supply chain and how they essentially run the tech world.
The absolutely crucial point here is understanding the philosophical difference in how technology empires are built today. Think about the typical Western tech model, like the one used by giants like Apple. They rely heavily on a fabulous business model, meaning they design brilliant software, they meticulously architect their custom chips, but they outsource the actual physical manufacturing to third parties. On the flip side, we have the chaebol model. Samsung is an absolute titan of mass production. They are one of the very few companies on the globe with the physical fabrication facilities, the fabs, capable of mass-producing advanced silicon. And building just one modern semiconductor fab costs upwards of $20 billion. It requires printing nanoscale circuits in hyper-clean environments that are literally thousands of times more sterile than a hospital operating room. Samsung has the immense capital and the raw industrial grit to do this on a global scale.
Which brings us to a deeply ironic reality of modern consumer tech. The rivalry between Apple and Samsung is legendary, right? Millions of words are written every single year debating iPhone versus Galaxy. But behind the scenes, that rivalry basically evaporates into a massive, highly profitable, and totally hidden partnership. For years, whenever a flagship iPhone is sold, a substantial portion of that revenue goes directly into Samsung's pockets. It's this multi-billion-dollar reliance hidden right in plain sight. Why? Because Samsung routinely supplies the ultra-premium OLED displays and the high-bandwidth memory modules operating deep inside their biggest rival devices.
Like the quote says, they don't just compete in the market, they are the market. Seriously, imagine a world without Samsung memory chips for just 1 week. If their component manufacturing plants were to suddenly halt operations today, the resulting global shockwave would be catastrophic. Data centers powering the internet would run out of replacement storage. Automotive production lines would just grind to a halt without the silicon needed for onboard computers. Critical medical imaging devices would face massive global bottlenecks. Their fabrication facilities are, quite literally, the beating heart of our modern technological era.
Section 3. Cradle-to-grave ecosystem, the domestics of a chaebol.
To truly appreciate the vastness of Samsung, we have to bring it down to a deeply personal level, the daily life of a citizen living in South Korea. Because there, it's not just a phone provider, it's an intricately woven ecosystem that spans an entire human lifetime. You could literally be born at the Samsung Medical Center, which is one of the country's most advanced healthcare networks. Later on, your specialized medications might be manufactured by Samsung Biologics, an absolutely massive biopharmaceutical division. Growing up, you might spend your weekends riding huge roller coasters at Everland, South Korea's largest theme park, owned and operated entirely by the corporate giant. And finally, after a long career, you might manage your pension and retire relying on Samsung Life Insurance, the largest life insurance company in the nation. From the delivery room all the way to retirement, that inescapable chaebol umbrella is always right there.
Section 4. The Hidden Military Legacy. Forging Heavy Defense.
Okay, we're taking a sharp turn here, straight from healthcare and theme parks into heavy military defense. Their crowning achievement in defense engineering was the K9 Thunder, a highly advanced 115mm self-propelled howitzer designed for brutal, heavy artillery combat. For decades, a subsidiary known as Samsung Techwin developed highly advanced military equipment built to traverse rugged, mountainous terrain while delivering devastating firepower. The fact that the exact same corporate umbrella responsible for your smart refrigerator was historically trusted with national defense and heavy artillery engineering, that is a profound testament to their unmatched industrial capabilities.
40 kilometers. Just let that massive, highly accurate firing range settle in your mind for a second. Because of this incredible engineering precision over such vast distances, it wasn't just used domestically. The K9 Thunder became a highly successful global export. It was adopted by militaries across Europe and Asia, eventually forming the defensive backbone for countries like Poland, Finland, and India.
So tracing this military legacy, we see decades of deep hardware development leading up to immense global export success. Now, it is important to point out that Samsung eventually decided to streamline its focus, and in 2015, they actually sold this defense division to the Hanwha Group. Why sell off such a successful division? Well, to pivot and reallocate billions in capital toward dominating next-generation life sciences, biopharmaceuticals, and semiconductor tech. However, the historical footprint remains undeniably massive. The legacy of forging heavy military artillery proves exactly what this industrial empire was and still is capable of manufacturing when called upon.
Which brings us to our climax, Section 5, Total Vertical Integration, the Ultimate Industrial Empire.
The stark philosophical difference between the West and this South Korean titan really comes down to this one concept. Western tech giants achieved historic, multi-trillion-dollar valuations by mastering software, creating digital ecosystems, and keeping their physical footprint incredibly lean.
But Samsung? They took the exact opposite path. Their philosophy is rooted in total, unyielding vertical integration. They basically want to own the whole shebang. They want to own the raw materials pulled from the earth. They want to own the massive foundries baking the silicon. They own the construction cranes building the skylines, the shipyards moving global freight across the oceans, all the way down to that final polished consumer product sitting right there in your living room.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a lingering question to reflect on. Does that sleek glass screen you carry in your pocket hide the ultimate industrial empire? Because the next time you look at a consumer device, I want you to remember the sheer staggering scale hidden just beneath the surface. You aren't just holding a piece of technology, you are holding a tiny fragment of a heavy industrial monolith that quite literally shapes the modern world, from the ocean floor to the tallest horizons. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive today. Keep questioning the world around you, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.